Well, in 2015, we Lampkins went through a very stressful season. In the spring of that year, we learned that our little house that we had rented in and lived in for almost 10 years was being sold. The landlord had subsidized our rent for all of those years, and so with this news, we were immediately plunged into this place of stress and panic. We had four kids. All right, where would we live? What could we afford? The costs of renting in Vancouver were astronomical. The thoughts of buying anything seemed this total distant miracle. It was extremely stressful. And I remember there was nights where we paced our house like we were caged animals, wondering what on earth are we going to do? And then, after all of that stress, with literally weeks until we wound up homeless, which is no exaggeration, the Lord made a way. And we bought a house. It was a fixer-upper, the place I'm sitting in right now, to say the least, but it was also this miracle to us. And so we began the work then of packing, which was the next hard thing we had to do in that year, leaving this neighborhood that really had become like family to us, and this home where we had raised our children and our family. It was so hard to say goodbye. But we had no choice, right? And so we packed our home and we prepared for this move that we were going to take. The problem was there was this gap of about a month between when we had to be out of our old home and when we took possession of our new home. And so we decided that we needed to make the best of it. And we planned this month-long road trip that would take us all over the United States, Yellowstone and Mount Rushmore and Chicago, and then on to Ontario where we would stay for a couple of weeks, and then back through Canada before finally ending up in Edmonton, which is where Jolie's family lived, before then returning home. Well, on the day that we were leaving, after loading all of our belongings the night before into these two big storage bins out in front of our house, we loaded up our van and we drove downtown to pick up our oldest daughter, who was coming home from summer camp. We had just timed these two things, and our plan was that we would pick her up from summer camp, put her into the van, and then hit the road. And that's what happened, sort of. After we stopped to pick up our daughter, got into the van, I turned the key and poof, all of a sudden smoke starts pouring out from underneath the hood. I yelled, everybody get out, get out, get out. So like all the kids pile out into the street in Vancouver. I jump back in, tried a few more times, and each time more smoke starts coming out. And we had only one choice. We called the tow truck. It came, it picked us up, and we watched it tow our van away, leaving us stranded at the beginning of our road trip before we even left the city on the side of the street in Vancouver. Well, what were we to do? We called our friends back on our old street, asked if we could crash in their basement while the mechanic tried to fix our van, which had erupted in smoke, which had been a perfect van until then, I should say. Then we told the kids we're going to walk back there, take the sea bus across, but on the way we'd stop at the spaghetti factory, all with our suitcases in tow. Well, partway along this long, hot walk, I look over at my beloved wife, Jolie, and I'm doing my best to take this interruption in stride, but Jolie, by this point, stress, all the rest of that, she's having none of it. And I'm walking along making all of these stupid jokes, which is my way, if you know me, of dealing with stress. And then over the top, she looks at me and she mouths these words, "What are you doing?" And I look back at her and I say, "I'm making lemonade." And we've been laughing about that story the past couple of days because that's exactly what we've been thinking about for church and our church over these past number of weeks, that in our simple churches, we need to make some lemonade. Now, let me explain that. A few weeks ago, I read this blog post by an old friend of mine, pastor friend of mine, Bryce Ashland Mayo, his name is. He pastors in Calgary. In a nutshell, the article basically said, you came into 2021, pastor, with news of the vaccine and thought that the end of this whole COVID thing was coming soon. Well, let me tell you seriously. And then he went on and explained, this is going to be another year before the vaccine has had any sort of a meaningful impact in our population and before the church has any thoughts of returning to what it desired to be normal. And so he urged us then to take this time, to take this opportunity, to use it as a chance to try new things and to explore different ways of being the church and of being disciples and making disciples. And I read the article and it was like I was inspired. I was like, yes, of course. You know, in our simple churches, we're already so different than most other churches. But could it be that the Lord has new things for us in this season, new things for us to try and experience. And we could just grin and bear it through church and online one week and Zoom the next week, which Zoom, I know with families, it can be so difficult. Or we could try different things and share different experiences to each other. I mean, what if we look back upon this year and we said to ourselves, that was really cool. Do you remember that? We did all these new things. It's pioneered new ways of being together and being the church. In other words, to link the story together, the world has handed us this big pile of lemons, so let's make some lemonade, right? Way back when we began this whole journey, God gave us a bunch of values, creativity or generosity and those things. One of the values that he gave us was that we would be creatively flexible, that we would follow where Jesus was asking us to go and to be in any different season. And I've always thought that was such a weird value, wondering why we even had it in there. But the past few weeks, I've been thinking to myself, maybe the reason that God gave us that value way back then was for just this time right now. Let's make some lemonade together. Let's be creative. And so what does lemonade look like? Well, we've got a few ideas that we're brewing up on the council and we've been thinking about. But one of the things that I want to share with you now is that once a month, we're going to host a special online evening. On some of the nights, we've invited worship leaders from outside of our community to lead us in worship. No, we're not going to be singing at the screen to each other. That's not really what I have in mind. But more imagine like a house concert that we can all join in with, crank up the volume wherever you are, take whatever posture you want, soak, dance, whatever you need to do. So far, we've confirmed friends of ours from Oliver, Steve and Lisa Toon, amazing musicians, and they're going to come and lead us one night. But the other night, we've yet to find a person from outside. We'll take care of it. It's okay. And then 2 of the other evenings, we've invited some really good thought leaders to help us reflect on race in the church, which is something we didn't really deal with this last year. We were focused on other important conversations in our church. But it's a good time for us to do it now. So I've invited Josh Koh. He's a Chinese American and a pastor here in Vancouver who's done some serious thinking on race and racism in the church and how we can be thinking about this in this season. I've heard Josh many times, and it's always very helpful and very good. And then as a follow-up to Josh Koh, we've invited an old friend of mine, actually an old intern, Steve Heinrichs, who is the Director of First Nations and Settler Relations for the Mennonite Church in Canada. And he's going to talk to us about First Nations relations. First Nations is where the story really hits home in the Canadian Church of race and race relations. And so if we're going to join Jesus in this work of reconciliation, we need to understand the church's role in this tragic story. And we need to find ways that Jesus may be calling us to be part of the healing and reconciliation in our own land. And finally, and I'm really excited about this, Sachi Rummel. She's a Japanese survivor of Hiroshima. She's also a member of our Central Lonsdale Church. And we have this special honor, I think, of having her worshiping with us. She's a Hiroshima survivor, and she's in our midst. And I've asked her if she would come and if she would share her story with us. And we're calling this series, We're Making Lemonade. And I hope you'll attend and attend these special nights. And you can invite other people from other churches to attend. You can invite anybody that you want to come. It's great. Let's have other people join in. We've got a few other things that we're stirring up and storing up. But this update, I think that's enough for now. So let me just finish by saying, I love you. Let's make lemonade in this season. If you have ideas of your own, feel free to share them with us. But I think there's a good opportunity for us in this together. All right. So with that, I hope you're excited. May the Lord bless you. And stay tuned on www.simplechurches.ca for details and information, dates. They're roughly all set. I'll post them up there in the next couple of days. But thanks for listening in, and I trust you're all well as we make some lemonade together. All right.